Tonight, 10 on Your Side is leading a courageous conversation. With so much unrest in the country and in Hampton Roads, over the last 3 months, we've been opening a dialogue. Good evening. I'm Anita Blanton. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll have frank discussions from people of different opinions about society, justice, and civil rights.
Black Lives Matter!
Black Lives Matter!
In recent months, we've seen more protests in the community. Protests, of course, are nothing new, but this newest resurgence started with the George Floyd case, a black man pinned to the ground by Minneapolis police in May. Floyd died under the knee of Officer Derek Chauvin. The incident fueled a new rage against police practices, especially how officers treat minorities. The call for action is loud, and it's strong. And I talked to a local spoken word artist who offers his unique perspective on what's at the heart of the unrest.
This message was constructed to be for the people and from the people.
In a 3-minute deep dive into the soul of a black man confronting the issues of today, Keon McDaniels makes one thing abundantly clear. You don't arrive at this level of frustration or unrest from one event.
George Floyd's death came after Ahmaud Arbery and then Amy Cooper in the park. And then we saw George Floyd get his neck kneeled on for 9 minutes. And that kind of, that weighed a little bit too much for me.
And thousands of others around the world who took to the streets. We talked about his piece entitled Domestic Tranquility.
So before advancing as a country, the citizens are going to need some clarity. Do we truly seek to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity? Because as far as liberty is concerned, a lot of us aren't feeling so blessed. And that's the point when domestic tranquility becomes civil unrest.
In his own words, in his own way, he gives people a glimpse into the struggle to remain strong when it feels like the weight of the world is like a knee on your neck.
It took a while to even process it, you know what I mean? Because you're also dealing with the idea of another one. Like the fact that he said, "I can't breathe," and people are wearing "I can't breathe" shirts from the last person who said that.
And still mourning the loss of those before him.
Because you operated off fear and bias and wouldn't even listen simply because Carolyn Bryant Dunham, Susan Smith, and Amy Cooper all told you that we fit the description. So now we bear the burden of proof and we catch those on-the-spot convictions.
If you take note of those names, Carolyn Bryant Dunham accused Emmett Till of whistling at her, resulting in his death and mutilation that his mother chose for the world to see in an open casket to recognize what had been done. No convictions.
Susan Smith was a lady in the 90s who murdered her children.
She drove them into the water, but initially said she had been carjacked by a black man.
And then Amy Cooper just recently in Central Park, ironically.
In the same place where the story of the Central Park Five just recently vindicated all began, Amy Cooper told police she was being attacked by a black man when he really had just asked her to leash her dog.
I wanted to incorporate other things that have happened in recent history or in history in general to kind of, weave that thread through the situation and let people know that this isn't just about an isolated incident that occurred. This is about something that has been building, and these are the many angles that we're feeling it from, and this is why you're getting the reaction and the response that you're getting.
So why are we so loud? On that, Frederick Douglass dropped the gem. Find out just what any people will quietly submit to, and you have found the exact measure of injustice and wrong that will be imposed upon them. He said the limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those who they oppress. Meaning, if that's what you're willing to take, that's exactly what you're gonna get.
What about black on black crime?
He says calling out these things isn't negating the fact that there are also issues within the black community, but these marches and our conversation was about calling out the disparity in treatment.
Once you have the courageous conversation, you can establish a baseline of truth. And from there, we can get to the reconciliation.
It starts with uncomfortable truths finally being heard.
Thought-provoking to say the least. You can find Keon's full spoken word piece on wavy.com. Now, civil unrest on our streets didn't just descend upon our country. It grew over time since the civil rights movement of the 60s. At the center of it all is that fight for racial justice. And recently, my co-anchor Tom Shad spoke with the former chief of police in Virginia Beach. Jim Cervera talked about civil responsibility so everyone's voice can be heard.
Part of that responsibility lies with police, whose role is protect and serve. But what happened to George Floyd sparked an outrage that flashed across the nation.
No way I would have allowed that to happen as a chief of police. I could say that for Virginia Beach and for the other cities in the Hampton Roads area.
Jim Cervera's been a police officer for nearly half a century. The last 11 years spent as chief of Virginia's largest city before retiring this year.
For a number of years, if you will, police have kind of been that organization that kind of absorbs all the social problems across the country. You know, we gave up as a country on the mental health system. Well, the answer was police need more training. And then we have the homeless problem across the country, police need more training. We had an opioid crisis, we still have it, and guess what? Police need more training. So police know that they're on the forefront of just about everything.
And in a culture where police often walk a thin blue line between hero and villain, Cervera says human is a more accurate description.
We know that we've had some incidents at our ocean front over the last couple of weeks where we've had gunfire. Well, guess who runs to the gunfire? The cops do. And they don't ask the victims whether or not, what race they are, what religion they are, what ethnic background, what political affiliation, sexual orientation. They go to the gunfire because it's the virtue to be a cop to do that.
What do you say directly to the black community, to the African American community and communities of color about what the police should do and why they should trust you?
I think we've done that, especially in Virginia Beach. We've gone out to all segments of the community. We've had initially the sit-down conversation, and 15 years ago that sit-down conversation was difficult. It was not a kumbaya conversation. People had to express how they were feeling. And one of the things that we did as a police agency was looked across the table and said, you have our word that we believe in equal justice for everyone in the community, and we'll work towards that. It's very difficult to hate up close. And if I'm speaking to you eyeball to eyeball, and we both have the same end goal in mind, the same goal, if you will, which is to create a better world, we'll work together on it. Everyone has biases. What we try to get the officers to do is to recognize what that bias might be and to counteract that bias. In the last decade in Virginia Beach, arrests and traffic tickets have dropped about 40% because we went to a fix-it model rather than a charge model. At the same time, property crime and violent crime also reduced 40% because we refocused. Do we want the violent crime to decrease, or do we want to make basically meaningless, inconsequential minor arrests? We refocused on the major cases.
None more major than May 31st of last year, when police killed a man who murdered 12 of his co-workers.
After they confronted the individual and they were not going to let him out of that door. They were not going to let him down the hallway because they knew what would happen if they did that. After he went down and they were able to get into the room, the first thing they did was provide medical assistance to that individual, and he had just shot a cop and 16 other people. Why? Because they truly believe in the sanctity of life. We need to get that word out to the community more and more and more.
But the word now is defund, the battle cry of many activists and politicians.
Rather than an emotional reaction of just defunding police, it should be a pragmatic conversation to say, how can all these other city agencies assist the police? We've come a long, long way from where we were 40-something years ago.
And now where do you see the future going?
I honestly see a stronger connection. We are in a highly emotional place right now across the country. We are beginning to have now some pragmatic conversations. And once we get
One of those pragmatic conversations has been about the need for officers to work with other city agencies to help neighborhoods in need. When people feel they are being heard, the bond with those who are sworn to protect them becomes stronger. See more of Tom's interview with the former chief on wavy.com. Meanwhile, I spoke to 3 local community leaders who represent 2 of the most well-known organizations at the forefront of this current push for change when it comes to policing in America. And while the approach may be different for the NAACP and Black Lives Matter, there is a unified message about making sure this movement is more than a fleeting moment in time.
The calls for change have been clear since streets across the country crowded with protesters following the death of George Floyd.
No justice! No peace!
But what exactly does justice in a more perfect union look like? Long questioned names of popular brands are changing, monuments of Confederate soldiers are coming down, but police reform is still a work in progress. So where do you go from here?
With the NAACP, people can continue to demonstrate, but now it's time to legislate. And that's where we need to go. We have to change policy.
I talked to Gayleen Knoyton, Virginia's Region 1 Vice President of the NAACP and the Hampton Branch President.
We want to make sure the legislators know what our legislative priorities are as Virginia State Conference NAACP. We are focusing on police reform, criminal justice reform, and also items coming out of COVID, for Black and brown people especially, and the underserved.
Portsmouth NAACP President James Boyd.
Dr. King said that social movements that only change people, those are revolts, but social movements that changes both people and institutions, that's revolution.
And I spoke to the leader of Black Lives Matter 757, Aubrey Jafari Jones.
We wouldn't say we're extreme. We would say we're fighting a good fight. We have clear goals. If we felt like they were being met, then we wouldn't be doing what we're doing.
Shared goals between the organizations include reviewing and reforming use of force policy and making sure each police department has not just a citizen advisory committee, but a citizen oversight committee operating totally separate from the department.
The oversight committee, by contrast, is one in which they have zero control over, has full subpoena authority, and we can get to the bottom of the truth when it comes to officer-involved shootings, when it comes to things inside the department like diversity.
Because at this time, pretty much the police themselves. They have internal affairs, and it goes to them first, which is still technically an entity within the same organization.
They all say diversity and inclusion is another major priority, but admit there are some major hurdles to departments achieving that goal.
We're going to have some hard conversations about institutional change. I think when that happens, people will be more acceptable to be a part of it. But when you see what we continue to see in this country, they're very apprehensive to be in that environment.
Boyd says to shift the paradigm, a part of that institutional change they seek revolves around disciplinary action that's taken when things do go wrong.
You'll see patterns where officers will not get punished for committing these murders, where you have police departments that enshrine themselves around this code blue, this wall of silence.
The police officer who was sitting on George Floyd's neck, he had from 18 to 25 incidents against him? Really?
You shoot somebody unarmed, you shoot somebody in their back, you shoot somebody as they're retreating, you put your knee on somebody's neck, you choke somebody out, you go to jail.
So what about calls to defund the police?
But defunding police is about taking the funding and making sure it works for the police department and the community.
If you're already saying you're stretched too thin, putting that money towards social workers, mental health programs, the things that y'all aren't to do, you're to come out to calls after it's happened.
It's been 10 weeks since George Floyd's death.
The civil rights movement lasted for 10 years. And the reason why it lasted was that there was a collective resolve amongst us in our community that we're not going to allow titles and organizational titles to divide us. In this country, we are one, we have a shared experience, and we can have a shared fight.
Straight ahead, as our Courageous Conversation special continues, we examine the racial disparities within local police departments. An uneven number of officers compared to the makeup of the cities they serve. 10 on Your Side crunches the numbers and gets answers from chiefs about how they're working to fix it. Welcome back to our special report, Courageous Conversations. We're opening up a dialogue to help bridge the issues of race, equity, and police practices. Recently, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam held a Zoom meeting with police chiefs from across Virginia, including Hampton Roads. And here's a part of that discussion.
I know there is a lot of anger, pain, and outrage about the wrongful murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and so many others. In the past several weeks, I have spoken with community members across our Commonwealth, and I've met with law enforcement officials.
We've done some things in the Norfolk Police Department that we want to be known as the incubator of community engagement, and that we do things that are measurable.
In Newport News, we have a foundation here, a focus on community policing. We're founded on the 21st century policing model. It came out of President Obama's administration under Chief Ramsey and the diverse group that he put together, the diverse panel, to talk about how do we police in today's society. And out of the 6 pillars, the one that I've heard most people talk about tonight, and I would agree, is trust and transparency. We have to earn the trust of the citizens that we represent, as well as the men and women who wear this uniform.
We are in a very peculiar situation. We've been here before, going back 30 years with Rodney King, Ferguson, and George Floyd. Now, let's not take this moment just to celebrate the problem. We do a lot of talking. We have yet to take the issue and create measurable outcomes. We got one time to fix this, folks. We are in this together, and we need to fix this together, because if we don't, we'll be here again.
You heard from Larry Boone in Norfolk, and also in that conversation you heard from Police Chief Steve Drew of Newport News. Chief Drew is focused on leading his officers in a different way by getting them out on the streets, walking and talking, and 10 on Your Side caught up with them in the South Morrison neighborhood of Newport News after a recent homicide.
Talk about getting out of our cars and getting off of our bicycles, and certainly getting out of our offices and interact with the citizens that we're supposed to be protecting and interacting with. I think there's no better way to do that than walk in the neighborhoods where they live. We've had some issues here, and I just want to kind of take a look for myself and interact with citizens if they'd like to.
Chief Drew holds regular social media discussions to engage with the community. They're usually on Facebook. He talks about the importance of citizen engagement and participation to help fight crime. You can find all those details right now on wavy.com. You know, in most local cities, the racial makeup of his police department doesn't reflect the same makeup as the citizens they serve. Newport News has 621 total officers and employees. 446 are white, that's 72%. 137 are black, that's 22%. There are almost 180,000 citizens in Newport News. 49% are white, 43% are black. You can see the difference there. But Newport News isn't alone by far. Let's compare that to Suffolk. A total of 249 officers and employees there. 175 are white, that's 70%. 53 are black, that's 21%. Well, Suffolk has a population of 85,000 residents. 53% are white and 42% are black. Again, lacking that racial diversity of the city. In Chesapeake, 543 officers and employees, 77% are white, 15% are black. But in a city with almost 250,000 people, 62% are white and 31% are black. And in our biggest city, Virginia Beach, there are 781 sworn police officers. 642 are white, which is 82%. 60 are black, only 8%. With a city of almost 450,000 residents, 67% are white and 20% are black. Well, recently, 10 on Your Side investigated why these numbers are off. Several police chiefs told us they have a hard time recruiting African-American officers because of distrust in the community. And they feel many in the black community don't believe their applications will even be accepted. Several local forces are trying to combat that by sending officers directly into neighborhoods and actively recruiting young people. Coming up after this short break, a unique look at race through the eyes of a local church leader. We'll show you his #1 piece of advice to help this open dialogue. is screaming. The whole country, it seems, is screaming for change right now. But how do we accomplish true racial equality? Tonight, Stephanie Harris spotlights the ideas and experiences of a Norfolk priest. He is a white man who, for the last 8 years, has led the predominantly black congregation of St. Mary's Basilica.
One of my parishioners asked me once, Father Jim, what is it like being the only white person in a black room? A room with all black people. And I said, it is absolutely nothing like the experience of being the only black person in a white room.
This black church welcomed him and all who enter with open arms.
They reach out because they know what it's like and they've been there, and they don't want their visitors to ever feel other. So they do everything they can so that I don't feel other.
But he knows he can never be fully integrated because he can't experience life as they do.
I just put my finger to my lips and give myself an extra moment. You know, it's so hard for us to really listen when we keep, we have this experience of life and they're just assumptions we make that it's the same for everyone. We have to start assuming that black people do know how to evaluate their own experience. And so when they've experienced this far more than we have. So when they call it racist, our immediate response is to say, no, it's not. And that's where we need to be quiet.
The example that changed his perspective when lawmakers were talking about requiring picture ID to vote.
And some people said it was racist, and it was one of these moments, and I said, okay, I'm going to be quiet because I don't get it, I don't understand it, and I listened, and I heard the experience. That a lot of black people were born in a time when there was no hospitals open to them, so there were a lot of people who were born in their home with a midwife, and they don't have a birth certificate, and it is not so easy. And then I heard somebody on a talk show say, if you're not responsible to have ID, then you're not responsible enough to vote. And then I said, oh, now I hear it. Now I get it.
Being quiet has served him well, but he also speaks out, even when it's uncomfortable.
We need to just suck that up and say, yes, I'm uncomfortable. And I'm afraid of hurting somebody's feelings. I'm afraid of saying something that's going to sound insensitive. And I'm afraid of all these things. That's fine. Own that fear, but don't follow the fear. Push through it and get to the other side of it.
And getting there, in his opinion, will take both quiet and talking, prayer and white repentance.
For everything that I have not done to bring an end to this, for all the times that I was silent when I knew I should speak out, for all the times that I allowed things to happen, and we repent for that because that's why we are where we are.
Stephanie Harris reporting for us. Father Jim says his plea is for people to stay focused on justice and push through. Speaking of that perseverance, finally tonight, the words of one of the first to push for civil rights, the late Congressman John Lewis. We just lost a giant. From his early years marching with Dr. King to his last days on Capitol Hill, he always fought for equality. We close our special with some marching orders moving forward from the man who became known as the conscience of Congress.
We're marching today to dramatize to the nation, dramatize to the world.
We can change America, and in changing America, we can change the world.
The time for silence and patience is long gone. I said to all of the young people, you must get out there and push and pull and make America what America should be for all of us.